The screech of twisted metal ripped through the morning air. Cars swerved, horns blared, and in the middle of the chaos, a silver sedan dangled halfway over the guardrail, smoke curling from its hood. Ryan Carter, a 36-year-old single dad in a wrinkled shirt, froze. He had 10 minutes left to reach the most important job interview of his life. But when he saw the terrified woman trapped inside the car, pounding the cracked windshield, her blood-smeared face pressed against the glass, he didn't hesitate. He dropped his interview folder and sprinted straight toward the wreckage. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. Ryan's shoes hit the asphalt hard, gravel biting into his palms as he slid beside the wrecked sedan. The smell of gasoline hit him instantly, sharp, metallic, choking. The front end was crushed against the guardrail, the engine still hissing. Inside, a young woman, late 20s, brunette, white business blouse torn and streaked with red, was pinned between the seat and the dashboard, her chest rising in shallow gasps. "Hey, can you hear me?" Ryan shouted, pulling at the twisted door handle. It wouldn't budge. His pulse hammered against his ribs. "Don't move, okay? I'm gonna get you out." Her voice trembled, weak but clear. "Please, my leg's stuck. I can't." "I got you," he said, teeth gritted. "Just hang on." The driver's side was jammed tight. Ryan ran around to the passenger side, using his shoulder to slam it again and again until the door creaked open an inch. Heat poured from the car. Somewhere behind him, a man yelled, "Back off! It's gonna blow!" But Ryan didn't even glance up. He shoved his arms inside, feeling the metal slice his skin. "Come on," he growled, bracing one foot against the frame and yanking until the seat shifted. The woman screamed, then her leg came free with a sickening crack. Ryan scooped her into his arms and stumbled backward just as a spark lit the leaking fuel beneath the car. Boom! The explosion threw them both into the gravel. The world went white for a second, then silent. Bits of burning debris rained around them. Ryan's ears rang. He blinked through the smoke, coughing, shielding the woman's head with his arm. She stirred, whispering, "You saved me." Ryan forced a rough laugh, wincing as blood trickled from his brow. "Guess we're both lucky today." A fire truck roared toward them from the distance. He could already see flashing lights reflecting on the guardrail. But when he checked his watch, his stomach dropped. 9:37. The interview had started 7 minutes ago. He sat there on the curb, chest heaving, holding the trembling stranger against his shoulder while the car he'd meant to use for his future smoldered beside them. For a moment, the only sound was her shallow breathing and the sirens closing in. "Why would you do that?" she murmured faintly. "You could have died." Ryan stared at the flames, his voice low but steady. "Because my daughter deserves to know her dad didn't walk away when someone needed help." The paramedics rushed in, taking her from his arms. As they loaded her onto a stretcher, her hand brushed his, lingering for a second. Grateful, fragile, human. He didn't know her name. He didn't know if she'd even remember his face. But in that burning silence, Ryan Carter knew one thing. He might have lost his chance at a job, but he'd done something no paycheck could ever measure. Ryan sat on the curb long after the flashing lights had dimmed and the smoke had drifted off into the morning sky. His hands still shook. His palms were blistered, his right arm scraped raw from the twisted metal. Every nerve in his body screamed, but he couldn't move. The interview folder, his shot at getting his life back on track, lay half-burned beside a shattered taillight. He looked at it once, then closed his eyes. "You did what was right, Ryan. You did what's right," he told himself. When the paramedics finally insisted, he let them clean his wounds. They offered to take him to the ER, but he refused the ambulance ride. He couldn't afford another bill. So he drove himself in his old, dented truck, the one that coughed every time he turned the key. His reflection in the rearview mirror barely looked human. Ash streaked across his face, eyes wild and hollow. But when he thought of that woman's face, the way she'd clung to him, it gave him something to hold on to. At the hospital, the waiting room buzzed with nurses and chaos. He filled out the forms with shaky handwriting, blood still spotting the clipboard. "You're the one from the highway, aren't you?" a nurse asked. "You pulled that woman out before it blew." He nodded quietly. "Is she okay?" "They're stabilizing her," the nurse said, softening. "You saved her life." Ryan exhaled and leaned back, staring at the ceiling lights. He hadn't saved anyone in a long time. Not since Emily, his late wife, had died in that hit-and-run 3 years ago. Ever since, he'd been the man people overlooked, the janitor, the handyman, the one who couldn't hold a job because he had to pick up his daughter Lily at 3 every day. He fished his phone from his pocket. 6 missed calls. 3 from the company he was supposed to interview with. 2 from daycare. 1 from an unknown number. His throat tightened. He called the daycare first. "Mr. Carter," the woman said, "everything's fine. Lily just wanted to know if you were still coming for her art show later." He pinched the bridge of his nose, smiling faintly. "Yeah, tell her Dad wouldn't miss it." He called the company next, rehearsing an apology in his head. "Hi, this is Ryan Carter," he began when the HR rep answered. I missed my interview this morning. There was an accident and I'm sorry, Mr. Carter." The voice interrupted briskly. "We've already moved forward with another candidate. Best of luck." The call ended before he could say another word. Ryan sat there for a long moment, the phone heavy in his hand, the hospital noise fading around him. The nurse brought him a cup of coffee, pity soft in her eyes. "Here, you look like you could use this." He took it with a nod. "Thanks." "Most folks would have driven by," she said. "Not many still stop." Ryan smiled weakly. "That's the problem. I always stop." By late afternoon, he was discharged with bandages and a warning about infection. He asked about the woman he'd saved. "She's in recovery," the nurse said. "Lucky girl. She'll want to thank you when she wakes up." Outside, the air smelled of rain and asphalt. Ryan leaned against his truck, watching the traffic crawl past the hospital entrance. He felt empty. The adrenaline had faded, leaving only exhaustion and the ache of another missed chance. As he reached for the door handle, someone called out, "Sir, wait." It was the same nurse, running toward him with a folded napkin. "The woman you saved? She woke up for a second, asked me to give you this." He frowned, unfolding it carefully. In shaky handwriting, the words read, "You lost something today because of me. But I promise you'll get it back tenfold. L." Ryan stared at the note. There was no number, no name, just the initial L. He tucked it into his wallet beside his daughter's drawing, a crooked heart with Daddy plus Lily, Mary Sturrows, forever scrawled in pink marker. He didn't know why, but he smiled. That evening, he made it to the daycare just as the little art show was ending. Lily ran up, face smeared with glitter and paint. "Daddy, you came?" she squealed, wrapping her arms around him. He hugged her tight, trying to hide the pain in his burned hands. "Course I did, sweetheart." One of the teachers came over. "Ryan, are you okay? You look like you've been through something." He chuckled softly. "You could say that." Later, after tucking Lily into bed, Ryan sat alone in the dim kitchen, nursing a bandaged hand and staring at his phone. He scrolled through job listings again: security guard, mechanic, driver. But his mind wasn't there. All he could think of was that woman's terrified face and her note. He didn't know her, didn't even expect to see her again. Yet something about the way she'd looked at him before they pulled her away. It lingered. 3 days passed. No news, no calls. Ryan went back to odd jobs: fixing fences, patching roofs, anything to keep food on the table. Then, one morning, as he was tightening a bolt on a neighbor's old pickup, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Ryan Carter?" The voice was warm, confident, female. "This is Lauren Hale." He frowned, wiping grease from his hands. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" A short pause. "You might not remember my voice, but I certainly remember yours. You're the man who pulled me out of that car." Ryan froze, tightening his grip on the phone. "You're Lauren?" "Yes. And I've been trying to find you since that day," she said, a smile audible in her tone. "The hospital gave me your name. I didn't just want to thank you. I wanted to see you in person." He swallowed hard. "Ma'am, you don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone should have." "Well," she said, "then let me do what I should have. Meet me at Hale Innovations tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. I have something for you." Ryan blinked. "Wait, the Hale Innovations? The tech firm?" "Yes," she said softly. "And Ryan, don't bring a resume. You already proved more than any paper could." The call ended before he could ask why. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. The rain tapped gently against the window, and Lily's soft breathing filled the small apartment. He turned the napkin note over in his hand again, tracing the shaky letters. "You'll get it back tenfold." Maybe, for the first time in years, the world was about to keep a promise. The next morning, sunlight poured through the cracked blinds of Ryan's apartment. His alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., but he was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed in the same worn-out jeans he'd fixed with a safety pin. The napkin note lay on the nightstand beside his watch. Its ink slightly faded, but the words clear as ever. "You'll get it back tenfold." He didn't know what to expect from the meeting, but a quiet hope stirred inside him, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. He dropped Lily off at school with a kiss to her forehead. "Be good, sweetheart. Daddy's got something important today." She looked up with sleepy eyes and a smile that melted him. "You're gonna get that job, right, Daddy?" He smiled faintly. Something like that. The ride to Hale Innovations felt unreal. The building rose like a glass mountain in downtown Seattle, sunlight glinting off every surface. Security guards waved him through after his name appeared on their list. He stepped into the marble-floored lobby, clutching his frayed wallet nervously. A receptionist smiled. "Mr. Carter? Ms. Hale is expecting you." Ryan followed her through a long corridor lined with photos, cutting-edge drones, robotic arms, and energy systems that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. He felt smaller with every step. This was a world built for visionaries, not single dads who patched roofs for cash. The glass doors at the end opened into a penthouse office with a panoramic view of the city. Standing near the window was the woman he had pulled from the burning car, Lauren Hale. She looked different now. Still bandaged, a thin scar tracing her temple, but her eyes bright and alive. She turned as the door opened, her cane tapping softly against the tile. "Ryan Carter," she said with a slow smile. "It's good to finally see you standing and not covered in smoke." Ryan hesitated, unsure whether to laugh or bow. You look a lot better than when I last saw you. Thanks to you, she replied, walking toward him. They told me you refused an ambulance, that you missed your interview to save me. He rubbed the back of his neck, awkward. It's okay. I didn't think twice. You were trapped. She studied him for a long moment before saying softly, You have no idea how much that means to me. I've been in business long enough to know people don't always stop for strangers anymore. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, his voice low. Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than you can afford. Lauren's expression softened. You're right. But sometimes it pays back in ways you don't see coming. She gestured for him to follow. Come with me. There's something I want to show you. They walked through a massive design lab, tables cluttered with prototypes, screens flashing code and blueprints. Engineers looked up curiously as Lauren led him past. This company, she said, is built on people who solve problems, not avoid them. I've seen your background, your years in mechanical repair, your designs for low-cost filtration systems. You might not have a fancy degree, but you think with your heart first, and that's rare. Ryan blinked, surprised. You looked me up? Of course I did, she said with a small laugh. You saved my life. I had to know who you were. They stopped beside a prototype, a compact emergency drone with foldable rotors. Lauren leaned against the table. Before the accident, this was the project I was working on. It's designed to deliver first aid kits to accident sites within minutes. But the design team couldn't solve the deployment speed issue. The irony isn't lost on me. It failed the very day I needed it most. Ryan glanced at the device, frowning. Your stabilization thrusters are misaligned. The air displacement's uneven. That's why it delays liftoff. Lauren raised an eyebrow. You just looked at it for 5 seconds. He shrugged. Sometimes the problem's simple when you stop overthinking. She smiled, almost in disbelief. You're exactly what this place needs. Ryan blinked. I'm sorry. Mr. Carter, she said, standing straighter, her tone professional yet warm. I'd like to offer you a position here. Head of mechanical design for our new rescue drone division. He stared at her, stunned. Ma'am, I don't even have a degree. I'm just a man who runs toward danger when everyone else runs away. She interrupted gently. That's the kind of engineer I trust. For the first time in years, Ryan's throat tightened, not from exhaustion, but from something deeper, gratitude. I don't know how to thank you, he said, his voice breaking slightly. You already did, she replied. You gave me a second chance to live. The least I can do is give you one to rebuild yours. That evening, Ryan walked into the small apartment with Lily skipping beside him. Daddy, you got the job? She asked eagerly. He grinned, crouching down to her level. Better than that, kiddo. We're going to build something that helps people, just like we did that day. Lily's eyes widened. Can I help? He chuckled. You already do, every time you make me smile. She giggled and wrapped her arms around him. Over the next few months, Ryan's life transformed. His hands, once used to fix broken fences, were now building rescue technology that would save lives. Lauren visited the lab often, offering advice and, sometimes, quiet encouragement. There was an unspoken understanding between them. Two people bound not by luck, but by a shared moment of courage and kindness. One afternoon, as the prototype test succeeded for the first time, launching perfectly and returning with precision, Lauren clapped softly. You did it, Ryan. You actually did it. He smiled, sweat on his brow, pride in his voice. No, we did it. She looked at him for a long moment. You know, she said quietly, I wasn't supposed to be on that road that morning. I was supposed to fly to New York. But I stopped to take a call, and fate did the rest. Ryan tilted his head. Guess fate had a plan for both of us. Her eyes softened. Maybe it did. Months later, the company held a public launch for the new drone system. Cameras flashed, journalists gathered. Ryan stood beside Lauren as she addressed the crowd. This design was inspired by a man who risked everything for someone he didn't know. A man who reminded me that technology can save lives, but compassion will always come first. She turned toward him and smiled. Meet the man behind the Carter response system, Ryan Carter. Applause thundered through the room. Ryan's eyes found Lily in the crowd, standing on a chair, waving wildly. His heart swelled. For once, he wasn't just surviving. He was living. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, Lauren approached him quietly. You know, Ryan, you didn't just change my company. You changed me. He looked at her surprised. How so? She smiled softly. Before that crash, I thought success was about control. But you showed me it's about heart. Ryan nodded slowly, emotion tightening his chest. You showed me that good things still come back around. As the evening sun painted the city in gold, she held out her hand. 2 second chances. He took it gently. And to kindness. For a long moment they stood there. 2 lives that had collided by chance, but were forever changed by choice. And in that quiet exchange, Ryan realized something simple yet profound. The world may forget your job titles, your losses, your plans, but it never forgets your kindness.